After over a month of witnesses taking the stand in Hudson County Superior Court trial of North Bergen Department of Public Works Supervisors Troy Bunero and Francis Longo, the State Attorney General's office argues that, after looking at all the facts, no other verdict makes sense besides guilty.
In the last few weeks, we've seen and heard evidence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that the facts, the events, and the charges in this indictment actually happened. And that the conspiracy that these two men were willing participants in committed these crimes. And you've heard very little dispute about whether facts, actual challenges, or otherwise. Ryan Neary or Paul Farnham on behalf of their clients. For example, there's no dispute that Troy Bunero, Frank Longo selected a group of workers over and over again, ordered them to go to out-of-town elections, and they got them paid to falsify timesheets. Their response is that the other members of the conspiracy, James Wiley and Timothy Rossi, ordered them to be paid. Now you'll hear in a second why that's not a defense under the law, which is really all that matters. Following orders. I'm sorry, I was just following orders. Never was and never will be an excuse for the behavior. It's not. Okay? But this defense that you've heard is more of a response that Wiley coerced, bullied these men into committing these crimes. Forces you, or what forces you to ignore the history that these three men have with one another. You see, it forces you to ignore the fact that Wiley, in the early 2000s, handpicked these two men to be the supervisors. It forces you to ignore the fact that these men, as laborers, were engaging in the very same conduct for which they are charged as laborers. And when Wiley came back, I want you guys to immerse yourself. They went into those positions eyes wide open, fully knowing and willing that they have to continue to do what they do. And in fact, now they have to expand on the goals, which they did for years and years. This response to coercion forces you to ignore that Wiley is the guy who hired Mike Bunero as a favor to Troy Bunero. You know, this abusive, bully, coercive person in Troy Bunero's life actually didn't even hire his brother because the family shop was closing down. And he went even a step further and hired Frank Longo's son into paid positions to work over regular summers. And he did the same for Mike Bunero. Heard that they were meeting with these laborers to find out what had happened. And we met with them individually. They had counsel in the room. But then they would go back to the DPW garage. And who was waiting there? And Frank Longo, James Wiley, Troy Bunero, haul them into the back room. Sit them down and ask them, what did you tell them? What do they know? Who's the rat that turned us in? They wanted to find out whether we had them in trouble. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the very definition of conspiracy. You ask yourself the question, why did you draw the line at these men and not the laborers? Again, why are they at that point? What do they expect? That's simple. The laborers didn't use their office in laborers. Laborers weren't in it the same way that these two men were in it. These are the men who received the orders from Rossi, Wiley, on down to them. They turned right around and they used their office, their authority, to order these men to perform illegal acts. That's where we drew the line. They are co-conspirators in a way that nobody else who's involved in these crimes is a co-conspirator. And that's why they're here today.
John Heides with the Hudson County View, the eye of the community.